In the bustling town of Florence, nestled between rolling hills and serene rivers, lived a wealthy merchant named Nelson. Known for his sharp business acumen, Nelson was respected by all but loved by few. To Nelson, every aspect of life was a transaction. Whether it was business dealings or personal relationships, he saw only profit and loss. Nelson had a younger brother, Edward, who was quite the opposite. Edward was warm-hearted, generous, and valued relationships above all else. Though Edward admired his elder brother's success, he often felt saddened by Nelson's cold approach to people. One day, Nelson came across an investment opportunity, a large shipment of spices that promised massive profits. However, the deal required immediate payment, and Nelson was short on funds. Reluctantly, he approached Edward for help. "Brother," Nelson said, his voice firm, "I need a loan of 500 gold coins for a business deal. I promise to return it with interest." Edward smiled. "There's no need for interest, Nelson. You're my brother. Take what you need." Despite Edward's warmth, Nelson noted the favor in his mental ledger, marking it as a debt he owed. Months passed, and Nelson's investment paid off handsomely. He made a fortune and repaid Edward promptly, adding extra gold coins as interest. "Here," Nelson said, handing the bag of gold to his brother. "Our accounts are now settled." Edward frowned but said nothing. Years later, a severe drought struck Florence. Crops failed, markets closed, and the town plunged into despair. Nelson, though initially unaffected due to his wealth, soon found his businesses failing. His warehouses stood empty, and his once loyal clients turned away. Desperate and humiliated, Nelson decided to leave the town to start anew. Before leaving, he visited Edward one last time. "Brother," Nelson began hesitantly, "I am ruined. I came to say goodbye. I have nothing left to offer you or anyone." Edward looked at him with disbelief. "Goodbye, Nelson, this is your home. You don't need to leave. Stay with me. Together, we'll rebuild." Nelson's eyes filled with tears. "But I have nothing to give you in return, Edward. I am a burden now." Edward placed a hand on Nelson's shoulder. "You still see relationships as transactions, don't you? A true relationship isn't about profit or loss. It's about standing by each other, no matter what." Moved by his brother's words, Nelson stayed. Over the months, Edward supported him, not just financially but emotionally. He introduced Nelson to the joy of helping others selflessly. They worked together, and Nelson's fortune slowly returned not just in wealth, but in the love and respect he earned from his family and the community. Years later, when Nelson was asked about his transformation, he would often recount Edward's words. "My brother taught me the greatest lesson of all: relationships are not business deals. They are treasures beyond measure." From then on, Nelson became known not only as a shrewd merchant but also as a man who valued people over profit, proving that true wealth lies in the bonds we share. Moral is that one should not see profit or loss in relationships, for they are not transactions but treasures that enrich our lives.